It is 10 a.m. I call this meeting of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order on Friday, May the 12th. This is a special session. No action will be taken on items today. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Sorry, I'm still not sure about that.
I'm not either. Ask me again.
That was almost perfect.
I hope we have that on video.
Siri is attending.
Do you have the power to hold somebody in contempt?
Siri has public comments. So.
I'm
Okay,
not so sure about that.
so let's go to item number 1, review and discuss regular bills. I'm going to go grab my computer.
Nothing like being
This
put in
is,
your place early in the day, is there?
Cheryl / Margaret.
Yeah, it came from my email. She's at work today.
Oh, she is.
Oh, she is good.
She
That's
is
good
at work
news.
today, her first day back.
Probably looked at her stuff and went, I'm
She's
going
back?
home.
Yes, as of right now. Knock on wood.
I felt bad because when I talked to her on the phone right before that, because I always tease her about being on crutches, because there for about 3 years, I think it was just one deal after another. And then lo and behold, you tell us there, oh, she's in the hospital. I thought, oh my God.
Yeah, she hit her 1 year this time,
Yeah.
but incidentally, the wheelchairs were delivered yesterday, so.
Oh, they've already been delivered?
Yeah, they came in yesterday. So I'll get those to her.
So I check in with Siri and see if it's okay for us to proceed, Judge.
We know we are reviewing and discussing regular bills right now.
Corey, are you able to pull up a invoice in precinct 4?
I can definitely attempt it.
What's the vendor?
The vendor is Thomas Pump and Equipment, and I know that they had misbilled, it's not very much, $19.57, but there was a question on there that I noticed, and I wondered to see if this is truly our bill, if it's carried the same discount. It's dated
4/4.
4/4.
Are you manning Zoom?
Is it, we got an issue?
No. I'm just curious with Nancy out and
Judge is-
Okay.
What are we looking at on the invoice itself?
Yeah, there's just it's a chain hook.
She just flipped me one, Cheryl,
Okay.
I think.
Bills seem to be not a whole lot here this week.
I might have been a little busy.
Seem to be fewer number of bills.
Okay.
Actually, there were less, but.
Yes, this is ours, and it does
It's
carry
ours.
that at the bottom of the invoice. So we got one that erroneously came to us. It was for some fan belts, but they went on a pumping unit. And I noticed at the bottom, it had a discount available to that customer if they paid by such and such time. And this one is the same
Yeah.
way, so that's all I was wondering about, so that's good.
There's a 17,000 direct energy payment. What is that for?
Well, it could, via several accounts. Is that in general, Judge?
Yep.
Judge,
Yes.
this is Margaret.
Hello, Margaret.
Hi there. That direct energy should be from multiple bills.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We also have a $4,800 Texas Parks and Wildlife check.
Yes.
That's for their share of fines or
Okay.
fees. Margaret,
Yes, sir.
you still keep a spreadsheet of accounts, don't you? Like on that direct energies, there's at least, what, 20 plus different accounts? Now, not all of them bill at the same time, I know, but don't you keep a monthly sheet that shows all the accounts?
Well, we have a spreadsheet that has the big one on it, so we can separate it out because there's so many departments.
Okay,
And the rest of them are billed individually, so those aren't necessarily on a, I mean, we could put it all together for you if you needed, I'm sure, but they're not necessarily on any separate spreadsheet because they're billed separately.
okay, so there's no way to see in the month of April the single payment to direct energy?
You mean for everybody that we pay?
Yes, for every direct energy account.
Yeah, I mean, I can get that for you, it's just not gonna be, everyone's not gonna be on the same spreadsheet because there's several,
Gotcha.
people that are billed out.
Yeah, there's 19 buildings on that big
Okay, thank you.
locations.
Rick, how are you this morning?
Good, how are y'all?
Good.
Thank you.
What was that?
That might be easier than y'all searching for it.
What was the pro insulation for, you know? 19,000 on pro insulation.
At the jail.
That was at the jail?
What's under?
Yeah, it said, it shows the jail, but I was just curious what we were doing after the fact.
Fencing,
Excuse me?
I know some of it's that new fencing that they were.
Oh, yeah, we were putting in. Yeah, it's up on the corridor.
Mr. Finkham,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
are you talking about that $19,000 bill?
Yes, ma'am.
That was, approved in four on April 24th,
It's all the fence.
yeah, the whole fence, and you paid for it.
Oh, okay. It's the fence, never mind. I thought it was some kind of insulation.
Who is doing that work? Who's the contractor?
Pro Insulation and Fence.
Pro Insulation.
Yeah.
I think that's a,
Jack of all trades, master of none, I don't know.
Yeah, I want you to call me in.
Everyone have a chance to look through everything? Ask questions?
Close.
Oh.
We can move on. We-
No, it's okay. I got nowhere to be. I'm here. Everyone here. Delighted to be in this room this morning.
I can be here
How
till
much
8,
chocolate have you had
but I
today?
can't go any past 8.
Ask
None.
Alexa.
Do what?
I can be here till 8.
Siri.
but I can't go
Siri.
past that.
Okay, well, maybe we're done by 8 tonight.
God, I hope so.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Thank you for making that travel policy short.
So all these to frame them moving, and that's paper pig.
I'd rather just take it personally.
What we moving?
I just want to take, I just want to close my door and just start typing in me from start to finish. Don't just-
Judge, those parks and wildlife too, I think that they're not a monthly, there's accumulation of time as well.
I'll try to send it
So,
again, but I'm gonna listen to you before it's
And
there.
Yep.
you are being staged, I
Anything else?
She's not small, so. Joyce
Jeff, is
understands
that
everything
for
I
you?
want her to do.
It's what
She
it is.
does, but
Let's,
I don't know.
it's a word for me. It's not mine, it's, I will park it, yes.
where is it?
Lentz Road, Lentz, it's not mine. Lentz Road.
It's gotta be mine.
It's probably some little bit thing out there.
I just don't recognize that. There it is.
It's off of Northwest Exit Road and Old Electric Road.
Okay,
And Old Electric.
out there by,
It runs off Harmony.
out there close to Rex's, that little deal.
Oh,
Where the Kirsch deal,
yeah.
yeah, there's two little roads up in there.
Yeah, it's kind of back in behind Woodard.
And this,
Yeah, that's where it is, that's why it took me a minute.
Yeah, we don't have many people drive down that here.
Yep.
I'm good to move on.
Okay. All right, we're good. Okay. All right, let's move on to item number 2, discussions on the county auditor's monthly financial report. Our auditor was good enough to just resend that to everyone, so it should be at the top of your inbox.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
While we pull that up, do you have anything you'd like to just throw out at the beginning, or?
No, because it's, now this is 6 weeks old, so we'll be getting the next one, not the 15th, but the 23rd.
this has come up before, so I'm gonna ask again. The self-insurance fund, the interest coming in on that. Those funds are specifically allocated for that purpose. It can't be touched for any other purpose, right?
That's my understanding, yes. It'd be nice if we could.
I don't know if it's bad having it there, it's just,
No,
it literally is a good,
It gives us a piggy bank if we choose to ever go back or do something with
Well, it
self-insurance.
also is protection for those offices not with bonds and lawsuits, so.
No, I agree, it's not a bad thing, we just need to make sure.
Yeah.
it's kinda nice not being able to grab money from other places to take it. I think it needs to
What was the
primarily stay
question?
where it goes.
That-
The self-insurance fund, if
Well,
that
it
money
is-
could be touched for any other purpose, or if it was, because it was collected for that, if it was just gonna sit there until we needed it for that purpose again.
But it is invested, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's what made me ask it, is we got some interest income.
whether or not the interest income was usable elsewhere. But
And Cheryl, I saw something in investment. Is the surplus money that sets in INS invested?
yes.
So it is at a, okay. Because I'd read something and I always assumed that it just kind of had to sit there, but
Yeah, it can be in an interest drawing account, and that's where it's at. It's-
okay.
When does I see the final maturity on the 2016 tax notes is this year. Do you know
Yes.
when?
That last payment is
Yeah.
January 1st, I believe.
Oh, 24?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the end of the year.
Yes. Yeah, some of these will be rolling off.
Yeah, that and the sheriff vehicles one. And you said we'll have the April one in April.
Yeah,
before.
like the 23rd, and I'll just put that one on general so y'all can talk about it there.
Okay.
We'll have to do.
Well, because I think this one, I think you were gone the week we had it, and so it made
Yeah.
it difficult.
Yeah, because Mike and I were both gonna be gone.
Yeah.
so. Yeah, most of our debt's rolling off. By the end of 24, we'll only have
LAC.
the LAC unless we do something else. Which, right now, with the interest rate so high, I prefer us not to
Right.
get debt if we don't need it, because
Right.
it doesn't help us. The debt was cheap.
So Cheryl, help us with, and Mike has been a tremendous help. Getting me formatted when Debbie pulls in Excel, and then help me understand what rolls up versus what goes into that roll up. And we were talking yesterday when he showed me some other things there. If Barry buys a motor grader
Yes.
and he is going to lease it for 5 years to own,
Yes.
his budget reflects one, the whole price of a motor grader, or two, the annual cost of the motor grader,
The annual cost.
and can bypass the 330,000 and can budget for 66,000.
Yes, because he will be paying it out over 5 years. For 5 years, he'll have to budget that annual cost.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so what you'll have to weigh is whether the interest rate and the cost of the lease is, better than to lease it out or just buy it outright.
Right.
Because right now with interest rates, it's kind of.
What if it won't be delivered for 3 years?
Add that into the
There
equation.
That does play into
You
the,
budget in the year it's going to be spent.
Well, let me ask you this, and let's just use Barry's example again. What if Barry was to see if you would take a $500,000 investment from Precinct 3, buy a CD at First National, and then let him utilize that as the collateral on the equipment
Yes,
at a
we,
2% interest? Could he do that?
yes, we can do that.
So that may be a way to look at
That may
those
be-
particular leases.
Right, it's gonna be whether the bank will do that. And yes, we can use your road and bridge money to buy an investment at any approved
Deal.
list that is on our investment policy. First National clearly is, but
Okay.
How about buying a lottery?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something creative with that project I have on those days.
yes, I haven't forgotten
I
your.
know, we'll work on it.
the bridge.
No, asphalt, the whole thing, it's supposed to go along with the bridge work.
Because the state's taking care of the
The
bridge.
state's doing the bridge.
You got some money? Precinct
Yeah, but I don't
one.
want to bankrupt.
I just say spend it. That's what you're saving it for. Precinct 1.
We do have lots of money in ARPA, and we'll start moving some of that out to 401 relatively soon. We met with Harper Perkins and stuff yesterday. We do need to go ahead and figure out the rest of our projects we've encumbered and get those contracts moving and see where those are at. I know we've got the ambulances. I'm not sure where we are with the Charlie Ferris statue. What else is on that list? Seems
What?
like there was something else. on
Can
that.
we, I'm gonna go ahead and make the request, let's put that on next Friday.
Okay. So we
And
need to.
get an update on where all of those things stand, so we can see.
Yeah, because we need to
Who's
get those
core to the bottom
formalized,
center.
formally encumbered with contracts would be great by end of '24, so.
It has Wichita Valley Water and City of Electra.
We have those contracts. City of Electra's already got their money. Wichita Valley, we're paying the AP as it
Okay.
comes in because it is $4.5 million.
Okay.
And I would prefer that money
Sure.
to stay in our account to draw interest and we
Yeah.
control that.
Sure.
The 500,000, I'm not so worried about going to its own
Okay.
entity,
And
a
that
governmental
has
entity,
happened
because
then.
they're getting audited themselves, so there's a little more.
Yes.
And so, yes, Electra, Burke, Wichita Falls have all gotten their money straight out and they have, I get monthly reports. Electra's actually on the ball. That lady sends me a monthly report like clockwork.
Good deal.
Good.
So, Burke is waiting on, I think they're still waiting on some permits or something, and, Wichita Valley, really, I've only, think I've seen 2 invoices.
And that's
come through. They're a
probably-
little behind.
Yeah, engineering is our
Right.
architect, whatever that's probably all that's there right now.
So, but
If you
currently
said-
we got like $22.5 million still in ARPA, and it is drawing a massive amounts of interest.
I think he said preliminary plans being one. On which
Yeah, I think you're right. Wait,
Yeah,
With
I think we've only paid engineering fees, so.
Yeah.
And
they-
the
they
interest
roll
from
it over.
ARPA, we can use for anything we want. We don't have to keep it in ARPA projects. It is ours to use and keep however we wish.
Right now, the interest on that is just being deposited into the ARPA
It is,
funds?
it's just staying in there currently.
Well, and I'm,
Cause it's just, the bigger that money is, the more interest it's gonna generate.
well, and to your point on getting some of that moved over and projects finished, I'm not
Get you in on
a
that.
huge fan of some of the rumblings coming out of Washington where
The
as
clawback,
part
they're
of
not,
the,
that's really not getting tons of traction. I think it's gonna die right where it's at.
I agree.
But yes.
Debt ceiling fights get weird and,
They do.
so I just think it would be good for us to like.
That's
make
where
sure
we
can.
can get those formal encumbrances and I can put them on the report that they've been formally encumbered and spent. That would be
Okay.
And
ideal.
Cheryl, are you able to identify from a report for the end of 2022, the county's portion of all JP monies? Can you see that as one number, Corey?
County portion of JP fees.
For 2022, is that a
We have to
already
do-
tabulated number for you right now?
Well, I can separate it out, I don't have it exact right now, no. I could get, I would have to look at like the civil fees and the criminal fees separately.
Yeah, cause they're all kinda going to the one
But do you,
pot.
oh, they go different? What I'm wondering is the commissioner's share of that?
Right.
How is that breaking out today?
On the, you're talking about the commissioner's portion of the fine.
Yes.
The road and bridge.
It's split out of, it's
It's-
split out quarterly, so.
Right.
Depending on however much the person pays, not necessarily how much is fined, but how much they pay when they pay, is split 4 ways to each precinct.
And
Okay.
it goes right into, as revenue onto your,
Yes.
in your.
Is that both civil and criminal?
What's?
Mostly criminal.
Mostly criminal.
Mostly criminal.
Right.
Mhm.
That's just the lion's share of the fee, but what is civil we get to?
Usually there's
I
not a
don't know
fine on
that
a
anything,
civil.
that there's any kind of civil fines that go road and bridge.
That's pretty rare to see us fine on a civil case. Fines are typically all criminal.
So the filing of fees to
Most of-
process civil.
Most filing fees are all state filing fees.
All the filing fees are gonna be state. The only thing, the portion that you get is the fines on the criminal section.
Yeah.
And the fine is set by the court itself, depending on
Right.
the.
And that's only what's received, not what's
Yes, you only
fined.
get what's
Right,
received.
you only get what's
Yeah.
received, and I will say that the collection rate coming out of JP's is pretty minimal when we
What do
got
you
the
think the
reports.
collection rate is, percentage wise?
It's.
But
Our collection
So-
rate for JP's is a little bit better,
But what goes to Purdue is really low off of that report they gave us.
well, and here's my question is,
We have
That-
a lot that's sitting out there that's not collected.
when Odyssey is posting, when Odyssey sends me my monthly report and then I'm annualizing that, so 2022, total, all JPs combined, 5, totaled over 600. But my portion, now, I don't know how what Odyssey's showing me, and you'd have to look at
Yeah, I
it to
don't
see.
know, I don't know if they're showing you what they've assessed or what they've collected. And
It's
that could-
collected, it's only, I do know that. So the report's showing me collected, but what I'm saying is, I don't know if that's gross or net. You follow me? I don't know if the state fee's in there that hadn't broke
Yeah,
out, Texas Parks and Wildlife's in there, hadn't broken. I don't know that.
Yeah, I'd have to look at that report
Okay.
and see.
Yeah.
Do we have a standard procedure for collecting those JP fines?
No. Every JP is kind of up to them on how they do it and how quickly they turn it over to Purdue or not.
See, I think Purdue would be,
And then what Purdue gets, but what I saw the last report that Tony gave me was a lot of stuff is just written off.
you know, that old paper gets bad quick. In fact, you know, well, we really need to be aggressive on collecting those fines.
The older the account, the less likely you are to collect it.
Oh, I'd say it falls way off.
If it gets past 30 days,
Yeah.
really 60 days, you're probably not gonna get it.
That paper's not real good when it's signed, much less 30, 60
It all
days
depends
later.
on how good your JPs are at issuing warrants.
Yeah.
Because
the
if
J-
you'll issue warrants, they'll pay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's my point. Are we being aggressive enough to keep that collected?
No.
No.
That probably needs to be looked at.
People are very eager to pay money when they have a warrant.
Yeah.
I
And
think we
they,
may be going a little skew with the auditor's
Yes.
monthly financial report here.
Right on the edge.
I mean, it does have to do with money.
Just because Mel passed out doesn't mean that we're out.
Do we have any other questions on county auditor's monthly financial report?
again, Cheryl, it's just a great overview, and it's really good to see, and
Great tool.
helps us.
Well, because
Fixed
it
to
opens
number.
up discussions like we were just going to, and that's something, at the appropriate time.
Right,
you
right.
follow up, you know,
Just one more thing.
if you don't get that on the floor.
Of course,
you know,
yeah.
You don't,
I like the pie charts.
We like pictures. We like pictures.
Yeah, pictures make it easy.
All right. Well, then we'll move on to item number 3, discussions with John Jones about generator maintenance and precinct maintenance plans.
And let me we're pushed back again because of still waiting on CAT, but everybody, all of us, Debbie, Lee, they're supposed to be making contact. The new software is up and running with Caterpillar, and they're supposed to be making contact so that the login, everybody's login, is activated, and he has to walk you through that. Caterpillar does, so you'll be able to then get in there and see everything. So that's supposed to be happening this coming week. And then we had, and let me ask, there was I guess when we developed something for Stuart Stevens Caterpillar to bid generator work, we had a 2, a 4, and an 8-hour time frame of testing per year. Is there a need for a generator to be tested for that long of time frame to run and operate for 8 hours or even 2 hours? Is there a need for that you see, Rick?
Not from my end. I don't see a reason to do that.
I didn't either. I just thought that's overkill
I
to
don't
me.
know if there's something on the state, for the LEC
Yeah,
and
the
those
only
types of
one
areas.
we question would be the LEC.
Or Juvie as well.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, they may have some standard there, right?
Right.
see, a 2-hour run time would give you a chance to check overheating, something like that, but I think that'd be as beneficial as an 8-hour, really. But it sure wouldn't hurt every once in a while to make sure that, you can put that thing under load for a couple of hours and run it. But I don't see any need to run it 8 hours. That might be getting out there, and I don't know that you need to do it on a maybe once a year. Something like
Right,
that.
once a year. And I'll dive into that on the juvenile and the jail and see if there's a standard. Now, the LEC certainly is new enough, and it can be set to do those tests. And I think it is set to do those tests, but juvenile is another story. I think it's old enough, unless it's carrying a radio on it or something that can.
They do automatic testing every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday?
Every Tuesday.
Is it set to come on by itself every
Yes.
Tuesday? Stuart
Yeah.
Stevenson then rigged that to do that.
Well, it's all in the control. You just punch in your times and when you want to run, how long you want to
Right.
run. And I want to say they run about 30, maybe 45 minutes. But they do that every single Tuesday.
But mine was set that way too, and the controls put on there, and I took mine off. Instead of sitting there and running and I thought an hour every Tuesday, I backed mine off to run monthly for an hour because I was just burning diesel, I thought. You don't see any problem with that, do you?
Well, over there, once again, it could be a compliance thing.
Yes.
So, that they're required to test for a given amount of time,
Okay.
each.
And I'll find out.
Or how many hours per month and so on and so forth.
Right. But I think that those radios put on by Stuart Stevenson to punch that in, are probably the ones that are testing are doing it every Tuesday. That seemed to be their protocol. So. Okay.
And they're getting the account set up, is that just for demonstration purposes or is that
On what now?
on the generators to be able to look at your generators and see? Is that
For John Jones?
right?
Yes. So the ones that carry radios today can report those hours to the login site, so you can see it can also record, you know, it can tell you that you turned it on at 2,000 hours, at 2,250 hours, you may need oil change, and it signals that on the portal, you know, that, hey, this unit's due for this because of hours of service or length of time. Both are showing up there.
But they're setting up individuals in the portal just for demonstration purposes, is that correct? Or are they already setting this up? Are we?
Well, no, they're in the portal, one, to track our inventory and to see, because we didn't have anything that, I mean, Lee had a list, everybody had a list of, and so we're trying to unify it so we can go to one place and see all of it. And it tells about the motor size, it tells about filter order needed, it tells all of that stuff.
I think what he's
That's
asking
Yes,
about,
it was
Jeff.
already set up.
Okay, that's.
It's already set up and approved for us to pay extra fee to have that done.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, is this something I'm gonna have access to, or who do I
Yes.
go to?
No, you have access,
Okay.
and probably, did Debbie include you on that list? I didn't see
No,
them.
I didn't
I'll
hear- I
make
didn't hear my
sure.
name, that's fine,
But
yeah.
like right here, and I did this yesterday as an example. So the portal pulls up on my deal. I needed to tell somebody, ask me about, if I quote you a unit, how many hours a year are you going to use that unit? Well, I could pull up my piece of equipment and I say, I've had this unit 4 years and I've used X amount of hours, so figure so many per year. And that was really beneficial, and then even just to know the age, or I can see the equipment too. I can see at any given point, anything mobile, I can see where it's at mobily. It just, but yes, you can get in there just fine and dandy. So the foremans and the commissioners, Sherrill's group, I just have, but I'll make sure you're on that
Maintenance.
list, Rick.
Yeah.
Maintenance.
We just need to
Yeah, maintenance will
understand who's responsible for which generators. 'Cause
Right.
I've got a question, like, here at the courthouse, since the central bookend is still part of the jail, are we still required to do the weekly checks on that generator? Who's doing them? Is that responsibility of building maintenance? Is that responsibility of jail staff?
Well, didn't we decommission here?
Not central bookend.
No, I don't think so.
Is it still a requirement to do the test on that generator?
That's a good question.
I think it would have to be. You
I
still
don't
have
think
an
so,
active
yeah.
jail here.
You would
They
think.
got-
Even though right now it's not active, but we're
But,
not holding anybody.
but isn't it commissioned, I mean, we don't do bookends here, right? It's modified commission?
No, it's, we're not doing bookends, no, we're just,
It's a holding.
No.
I thought it was for holding folks,
It is
so
for
when
holding.
we're having to bring people in for their court stuff or whatever, and they have to have an ability to hold them in a proper facility, so I think
Yeah,
that's
still-
what I thought, maybe I'm totally wrong on this, but that was my memory serves me, I thought
Yeah.
that was
It is a
why it
holding
was still
facility, but it
commissioned.
Still has to be
Yes.
certified and commissioned by the,
yep.
No,
Does
when
it?
you
Does
get
it?
with I guess the sheriff's office,
Yeah,
and
that's- I
let's
can
get a
ask.
legal answer on that, because
That's true.
right, we do need to
Well,
know.
what happens to the courthouses that never had a jail in them and people are brought from jail to court? Are they have a room commission to put prisoners in?
well, that's a little bit different. You don't have to.
Do
have
not
a-
know, but I,
That's a jail facility though that was commissioned at one time, and we're keeping it that way in case we need to use it in the future. So if you're taking them to a room in a courthouse, it don't really matter. Just a room in a courthouse.
we may be doing more than some courthouses do, you know, you go to like Hardeman County or somewhere, I don't know if you've ever been to that little courthouse, I don't know how they would do it in that little place, but they may just run you right in and they're good, you know, if they have to, but in our situation with the size of it, there's probably
Right.
just time when they have to put them somewhere, so that, I
Right.
don't know.
We're having and Cheryl, on that as well, there's two, Warren Cat tickets that we're in opposition to.
Yes.
One was the Precinct 5 skid steer,
Yes.
and the radio never worked, and they came out at some point. The skid steer's still under warranty. They came out to fix the radio, and it never was fixed. So then when we begin to upload here, we discovered that again, it never reported. In its life, it never reported. And so we called them again, they come out and they're wanting to bill us for coming out again. And we're saying, no, that's not correct. I mean, it was, came to us broke, you came and fixed it, didn't fix it, and now you finally got it fixed and you want to be paid for that. And then secondly was Mickey's dozer. It was, they called out on warranty. Mickey has a special warranty on that dozer, and they installed a part that was missing a gasket, and now they're wanting to charge to come back out and do it again when they didn't fix it right the first time.
Right.
So those are,
Those are still on hold.
And I'm still waiting for a payment from you on that, on the dozer.
no, oh, for the whole dozer.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Okay.
And the truck and the trailer.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay.
All right, do you have any other questions or items on that, or comments?
No, I'll move him to Friday, and hopefully we can be, but he wanted everybody to be set up and looks like Rick, so that when we talk about it, they can see what we're talking about.
Okay. That's the best, longest discussion on an item we're gonna push back, I think, we've ever had. All right, so move on to item number 4, discussions regarding the creation of the Building Maintenance and Construction Committee. So let me take a minute to lay this out, and then do what it says in the item and discuss it. So I was walking through the courthouse a couple of weeks ago, and was looking around and saw, we've got plaques all over the place for these different segments of projects that we've done, and with the date, Commissioner's Court, the architect, the engineer, all that stuff on it. And I was thinking, okay, so we have a number, and I was just put them out. I think we've got, depending on how you count them out, 16 different construction projects we're either in the middle of or that we have on the horizon. And all of these different projects are going to outlast any of us that are here in this room, and some county judge, and
We sure hope so.
yeah, and 2075 is going to be walking around the courthouse, and we're going to have these plaques. And then from the standpoint of funds and just time and importance, the construction and renovation portion of this, I don't know that there's anything that is going to be so long lasting or that just takes up so much of our time and attention, especially God bless him, Commissioner Beecham, who has to be the man on the ground with all of this stuff. With all those different projects at various states of play and in various states of being completed, then we had a water incident, decided to throw a handful of new ones in that and kind of speed up the timetable on some of those beyond what we wanted to do. We also have a number of different departments in county government that have some pretty specialized needs, like our courtrooms. It's just the most obvious example of things that they need to do their job, which is a core function of county government that perhaps none of us up here, heck, no one in this room has a good insight into. So we got all of that in the stew, and we don't have a formalized process, as far as I can tell. That's why we're discussing this today, for planning, for oversight, or for decision making on a lot of the projects that are going to be here long after any of us are gone. Now, Commissioner Beecham has taken on nearly all of the responsibilities for this, and he's done an as far as I can tell, a fantastic job of doing it. I just think that with, again, 16 and counting different projects in play, I think it's too big of a job for one man. And I'm a Southern Baptist kid and spent way too much time around the legislature. So in panning over and thinking over this and trying to figure out, okay, what's a way we might be able to formalize a process and bring more people to help with managing all this? Well, of course, my answer is a committee. Been around the legislature too long, and again, Southern Baptist churches, we form committees. Heck, my church has a committee, or had a church, my church had a committee on committees. And so my idea in thinking through this was for us, okay, let's put together an advisory body. Again, this court is going to be the one that has to make the ultimate decisions for spending the money, what we are ultimately going, if we're going to borrow money, all that's going to fall on this court. But I do think it would be helpful for us to have an advisory body that was made up of a couple of commissioners and representatives from across different offices. Ricky, for example, for the courtroom aspects, having a judge on it, having the county auditor have somebody there. Just different people, different places around the courthouse to help have more eyes on what's going on, to help us formalize and get together a plan for what we're wanting to complete, timelines, and then what we think our projects are going to be moving forward and prioritizing that. I think it would be good for us to have an advisory body doing some of that work, because I know that I don't have the expertise to do it, and I don't think any one person does. And I think getting multiple people at the table to do that would be helpful. So what I'm asking, my goal is, I wanted to get feedback from the court today. My goal would be to have sort of an organizing document for this committee by the end of the month, so that it can start meeting and providing recommendations to the court for moving forward on things, and honestly meeting so that we've got more global buy-in and awareness of what is happening from a construction and a renovation perspective at the courthouse. So that's my thoughts. That's me just laying out what I'm thinking on this. And I'm asking for all of your input today of
What would be the size of the committee?
that's what I'm asking for input for. Because as all of you know, if it gets to be too big and too unwieldy, you can't ever get everybody's calendars on the same page. Then we end up with a hindrance rather than a help. My thought was this should be fairly small, 5 to 7 people. And then I wanted to also get the court's input on how official, how formal should it be? Is it just we'll meet on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever basis to get updates on how projects are going, to make decisions that need to be made on if it's aesthetic issues or if it's actual decisions that need to be made because we ran into a problem? Does it need to be that involved, or does it need to be more removed from that?
Well, it's not anything that would require a posting of the meeting, so you could literally, if something came up, I mean, you could meet anytime. But
We already have an OAC meeting every other Thursday.
Who is on the OAC?
So Brendan, Rick, myself, anyone on the court's always welcome. If there's court-related stuff, I usually let one of the judges, Judge Kennedy or Judge McKnight, know that we're going to be discussing things involving the court. Also, all our architects, our builders, any subcontractors that are involved in the upcoming week's events. So we already do that.
Okay. Is that for a management in the middle of oversight body, or is that planning body? What, I guess, what
A
is
little
that?
of
Job
both.
progress.
It's a job progress, but there is a certain amount of future planning that goes on in those meetings, so.
Well, we're kind of forgot somebody that, writes the checks.
Okay, that's
So-
fine.
I mean, from what I'm seeing coming through money wise, and we get lots of questions to my office about how we're spending funds. What the public doesn't always understand is a lot of this is ARPA, but what they're seeing is that we're grossly overspending and they want a justification. That's what comes my way a lot. And I have to explain, but it's real hard to explain some of those when we see the bill after the fact. So decisions have been made, not necessarily by the court, like we've allocated a dollar amount, but not necessarily does. You'd be surprised, design features, why we picked that color, or why we picked that floor or that tile. You'd be surprised what comes my way. I do think if we had a little bit more pre-planning, where things have been picked out, the budget has been set, the dollar amount, we kind of know what we're spending for those things and presented to the court that way, kind of like interior designers do, and they come in and they've got all their swatches and whatever. I think then if the court made that decision and it's part of the public record, y'all know, because sometimes I think y'all vote and you have no idea what actually ends up on the wall or on the floor.
Right.
And in the end, y'all have to answer to it, and in some way so do I, because I approve the bill.
Right.
So, go ahead.
Well,
So I
there-
do think that's kind of where
Well, you've
we're
got-
going with some of that.
So, I take it as of right now, you've got Cheryl and Ricky, Mark and Mickey, and
Where'd Ricky go?
I don't
Brenda.
I was gonna nominate the judge.
do what? No,
That could be a
you're
commissioner or a judge.
you're on the maintenance deal, aren't you? Yeah, you're a maintenance liaison. So, I think that's why he wants, and I don't blame him for a second. It'd be something that I wouldn't have passion about, but Brendan, of course, has got to have input there all the time as well, but then there may be, I mean, I don't know who I'm not thinking about, but I always think about Sherry Jones when it comes to aesthetics because of her sister and her work that she does as interior design. But, any of that stuff could be utilized. Judge, I agree with you, getting too big is a problem more than a benefit to some extent, but it lets Mark be able to bounce off some of these things right there at the time of visitation and having to, because it's kind of a problem really and truly Mark can kind of tell one person, but getting outside of that about what wants to do can be an issue. Could be an issue.
Well, and so last summer, I remember I was watching Commissioner's Court one Friday, and Glenda was here, and at the conference table, the plans were laid out, and the court was asked for its opinion on, I think, lighting decisions, and I can't remember which project it
Talking
was
about the
now.
cloud ceiling where
That was,
annex.
it was that meeting. But that's the only time I've ever seen that type of meeting happen. And so part of this is just, all of you have a lot longer experience having gone through this now for years than I do. So part of it was I wanted to ask, I saw that one time, but I don't ever see the court making other decisions like that. So I thought maybe that was a one and done, or a specific ask maybe that you had made or someone else had made. So that's sort of what I envisioned this committee being in the role of, is to help set those guardrails or those parameters in place of where we're going, or to at least advise the court of this would be our suggestion.
And Ken, I guess, we're not limited to just county personnel. If there's an expert that we use, we could appoint somebody like that on there too, right? That we have to help
For a
share.
fee?
Yeah, that's right.
As long as it's not we're paying somebody, because there's really no sense in that.
Because that's,
No,
let's engage them as part of the.
Yeah, but we did that, Judge, what you're talking about at school, ongoing. So that committee worked to develop points of the bond, and then they worked through advising about the stages of the bond, and then after that, they continued to work towards the next one, the development of, and even though that might be 5 years, they still met, had different glorified meetings from time to time for other interested individuals, but it didn't encumber this body to have to do that. They did it, and they talked about, hey, we've identified these 5 things at this campus that are priorities, and this 5 at this one, and or maybe they're singular and they're just inexpensive and they could be enhancements. But I've seen that work at the school and seemed like it was worked well.
So am I getting this straight? People are complaining about the tile choices and the color choices that we're
You'd be surprised
making?
what comes my way, yes. Like,
Well-
why'd we pick that, or why'd we pick that, or why?
You know,
Well, because
anyone
the
is
owners-
welcome to come and deal with the hours and hours and hours of sifting through sample books to try to find the best value that's aesthetically pleasing. I'm sorry people don't like the tile choices.
Well, and I
Jiminy freaking Christmas.
And I-
I've worked my butt to the bone, and now people are complaining about tile choices?
And I think that's part of, because I have no doubt, Commissioner, that if anyone comes to you and says, I'd like to play a role in making this decision or help or do the work that you have.
Well, let's
you have
talk,
poured
let's
into.
go back in time. Let's take an example from yesterday. I walk into the district clerk's office and her windows in her office are now covered up because she doesn't want people to see in her office. But we had hours and hours and hours of discussion on putting windows in an office so that everyone could see out and see into that.
But wasn't that with Patty?
That
No?
was, but now we're
So we got a
questioning
new-
choices.
Right, but now we have a new
But
district
we
clerk,
made
and those things
choices
changed.
along
Way
with
back.
the different offices that I sat down with them for hours discussing their needs.
Right.
Now I'm getting second guessed.
Well, you can. You're not everyone.
We're not gonna make
everyone
everyone
happy.
happy,
But there's no reason to get upset about it.
Yeah, never.
I
wanna
like
make
the tile
everybody
choices.
happy.
I mean, I personally, I kind of like them.
You what, Mel?
I like the tile choices. I enjoy it. A lot of them are kind of that gray look. I like
Everybody's
that.
gonna complain about something. I think the goal here is that we wanna we're trying to also shield and help you as well. I think with
That's-
this and
That's fine, but it's not that it hasn't been being done. I've been trying to bring everybody involved in the process.
And I don't think that that's, I don't think that that's the case at all. I meant when I said, earlier, when I said, you had taken on this responsibility and had invested and poured out a ton of it and done something that, as far as I can tell, no other person had been willing to do or had done. But I think it would be helpful to have more buy-in across the courthouse, to have more people as part of it. And then, if people don't like the decisions that are made, they can own some of that.
You know, Judge, I'm kind of coming from the standpoint of you want the basic aesthetics to be good. You know, we don't necessarily want lime green, stuff. But once you get past that kind of standard deal, I'm more about durability than I am aesthetics, because I think in a commercial building like this, if you get to a level of just pretty basic stuff, durability to me is the #1 deal, because this stuff costs a fortune. And it's going to continue.
And it's only going one direction.
And it's only going one direction, and then the next thing you think of is that, every time we do something on a project, one of the things that's really kind of bothering me or worrying me a little bit, the money we're spending on engineering and design is just going through the roof. These projects are costing a tremendous, and I'm not picking on our architects, I think they've done us a great job, but guys, we've gotta be considerate of that. We can't just, willy-nilly say, well, let's take a look at this, cause you get you a set of plans, she's 50 grand, you never build it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a consideration that a committee like this would have to take a look at. This, boy, engineering fees and all now are just, they're getting higher and higher and harder to find on some areas. I don't know, but I'm a durability guy. Get it basically good, and I think we've done that. I think it's everything. Well, if you ever walk through the basement and you walk through it today, you're not going to complain one bit about aesthetics. I'll tell you for sure. And I mean, that is that turned into a lot better space than I ever dreamed it could be. I mean, we've had success, but yeah, I think anything to help. I know Mark's carried this load, done a great job as far as I'm concerned, but anything you could do to help him, I think it'd be a good idea.
Well, and I wanted to bring it up today too, because we should all know what we're good at and what we're not. I do not have a taste or an eye for aesthetics, and I'm not good on construction projects. So that's why I'm bringing this up before the court for us to discuss. And maybe there's a better idea. Maybe there's something. Committee's a terrible idea. I mean,
Can I?
If we have a planning committee before the AOC meeting on Thursdays, I'm fine with it, but I'll tell you another story. The one time I brought everybody into the fold and asked everyone's opinion, it was a massive fail. So the third floor flooring.
Sometimes too many people.
Yeah.
Yep.
In
No,
it-
that's
in
I
it.
brought that up earlier.
Too many
I
people.
put 10 towels up there. It's the one that gets the most votes wins. And we're gonna take that tile out because no one liked it, and two, it failed because it scratched too easy because it was too dark.
Well, I
We're
would
talking
assume, would
about-
you still have the AOC meeting that you're
We would
talking
still have the
about
AOC meeting.
in
We just do the-
conjunction with whatever?
We would do that, we would do a planning meeting prior.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
also do that.
So similar
Because the
to
planning meeting doesn't need the stuff for contractors and all of that.
when we did the update with Harper Perkins back in March, I think.
Yeah.
It just does that type of thing prior to January 1st? Has that type of meeting? Does that happen on a regular basis where there's a presentation of what all the projects are, what their status is, what the future projects and priorities? Has there been anything
No, that
like
was a
that?
special call.
No, that was special.
Judge, you made a comment a while ago about us spreading everything out on the conference table, and I remember that exact meeting, and I also remember what prefaced that meeting, and I think it was Commissioner Fincan that asked the question. We had all these projects going, and we had not ever had a really good 30,000-foot view of how all this is gonna come together. Isn't that correct, Mickey? Wasn't that kind of the discussion? We're getting these bills and we're getting these plans and this is gonna be this, and we spread that stuff out that day and went from front to the back, if I remember right, and looked at all of them. And it sure helped me. I don't know about anybody else, but all of a sudden I thought, okay, now I know where we're headed and how that's gonna work. And that committee could help us, kind of stay on top of that or anything that we came up with. But that's the way I remember that meeting coming down. We sat there and unfolded the plans and we looked at how this piece of the puzzle fits and that piece fits and this is where this is going. Because boy, at that time we were like all over and Cheryl's paying bills and we don't know where that goes, but that's the way I remember that
Yes,
session.
that is
And you need to
correct.
have one every once in a while like that. Just get everybody up to speed, especially when you got as much going on as we do.
And then there's tons of change orders and things like that.
Yeah.
And with the
It
new
will be good
purchasing
when we
policy
get that.
coming in, all that's gotta get reapproved.
I know that
It's all
will be.
gotta go through the correct process.
Well, let me ask then, is it maybe a better path forward to, on a bi-weekly or a monthly basis for court, for us to have a regular, or, no?
Because we don't have the time unless we call,
Another day.
we're calling a special meeting to
Okay.
do that.
Yeah.
I think it's more too involved, Jim, and that's why we get the 30,000 view glimpses. We're trying to fit the rest of the stuff in we got to do, so we quickly go over that, and then you think of 10 questions afterwards that, I think that's difficult to do.
And quite frankly, we've got all these ARPA programs going, and we really need the same kind of review of them every so often to see where we are and how that's coming along. Look at the deadlines, are we on track, are we not? I mean, that concerns me that
Oh, yeah, me
we've
too,
got all that
because if we
stuff
don't
going
need
on,
it,
and we
so
really
we-
need to know.
We don't have $25.6 million.
Yeah, what stage are we
I
in?
do not mind having Cheryl come to the meeting and others. In fact, if we go back, rewind the clock 6 years ago when we started the LEC project, I begged the auditor to come and be part of it. It never got a minute's worth of help.
Yeah.
So I could use the help.
You can, everybody can always use the help, but there's always, you know, the planning and
You
how
want
we're
to
gonna
do
pay
it
for
too?
it.
No.
Oh.
No, I want to ask a question.
Well,
Yeah.
it's obviously the HR department's fault.
No, yeah, no, no, we're not picking anything.
HR will be at every meeting from now.
And I don't want this to hurt. I'm trying to think of ways to help Mark because I see him every day and he's, you know, and I'll say, Mark, the painter came, but he forgot that one patch, and he'll say it's on the punch list. And so I know what's on punch, and I know what really kind of needs to be fixed now, but I can tell Pat or I can tell Mark, and before Mark leaves my office, 5 people are going to say, hey, do you know my chair wheel's missing? Do you know my whatever? But kind of like we do a help desk ticket, because I think once I know that's in writing, and a lot of times I hear Mark go, oh, I forgot to do it because I didn't write it down. Or I'll tell Pat comes in for a sugar rush, and I'll say, Pat, remember my light goes off in 3 seconds, and I have to stand up and walk to get my light to come back on. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get that. But and I know I'm not the only
A
one.
maintenance help desk.
Well, kind of where you say
You're in charge of
it's
that.
because it finishes. Well, it's not a maintenance.
Yeah, because it's
It's
related
construction.
to construction.
It is.
And so
Right now.
and you can then they can put it in a folder. Punch. I know her little paint patch is a punch, and you just. But I know it's in there. They're working on it, and it's not that Mark forgot his notebook and didn't write it down, or Pat got hit by 4 other people to go do something else, and I'm still in the dark. But I know it's in there, and they're going to get to it because I know from the ground floor up, everybody's asking, especially in projects that are not quite finished.
Yep.
Everybody's asking for stuff to be done.
with
Or
our
when one
19
project's.
And-
16 projects.
You know, and it just depends who you're with at the moment, who gets priority. And so, would it help or hurt? It's just one more thing for you to look at, because I know if we email, if we
It
email
would be
you,
fine to have,
Pat
and it
needs
would go
to be
to
included
maintenance
in
and
that.
construction, either one, and that way,
Either one could knock it off, if it was
Yeah.
theirs or not theirs, they would know.
We have something like that for the LEC. The LEC has a maintenance help desk. It's the same help desk that we use in IT. It's just set up specifically for maintenance issues. Something like that. could be done
Maintenance
here.
LEC,
but
so
they
you
have
could
a
do a
help-
maintenance.
they have a
for it.
maintenance help.
Yeah, because we already have that for maintenance related
Mhm.
issues. This is
This is just a
for,
reminder, hey, Pat, I'm in the dark. Or Brendan, I still don't have the holes for the cords in my desk. You know, it's like, it will remind everybody, because you're drilling holes in everybody's desks. I mean,
I
so
thought COI had to do that, or
he was gonna coordinate
Boy,
with
did that.
Brendan, and then yesterday he said, I'll take care of you, and,
yeah,
they're-
she's pretty specific on that with her furniture, so.
well, they needed to wait to see where the furniture went.
Right.
And so, and then it's still not done, so, but it's a minor thing. It's a little, I wanna say,
I know. It took a
put
year
it in
for
there,
us.
and then when it gets done, it gets done.
I think that,
well,
that would be.
That's Mark's call, if it helps or hurts.
that's fine. And
I can't
we
read
can
it.
put together a planning committee to meet before a OAC meeting once a month. And it's basically the same people that are already gonna be there.
so remind me again, so the OAC, who's a part of that now?
Brendan and Rick, Harper Perkins, Litigan,
You,
and me, any other subcontractor that we happen to be working with at that particular point. So if we've got TK elevator stuff,
They'd be there.
or CNI, whatever, whoever might have a special
And when
important part of the project.
And when the OAC is gonna meet and you know it's gonna be related to a specific department or something like that, do you try to reach out to them and invite them, or is?
If it's something that's gonna change anything in their part of the project or whatever, yeah, so.
We might
Judge
need to be more
McKnight's been
careful with
several-
that to some degree, because as our officials, as you're getting, and, Leslie's mad about windows, I mean.
Well,
if
Leslie
you have
wasn't mad about Windows, I just
but-
found it yesterday to be,
But-
I spent so much
But my
time.
point
Yeah.
there
Going
is
over
that when
windows.
officials are
Now they're
changing
covered.
office every 4 years, something that's specific to one particular official might be something we need to be,
But-
just go with something general.
Sometimes.
And that's why,
Maybe.
trust me, when I do that, we spend a lot of time thinking about, all right, it's not just for this official, but it's what's the best need going forward, what's the best way to expend the funds. There's a lot that goes into it.
Sure.
How is the
There's
the AOC, is that the right name?
No,
The
no, no.
OIC. It's not Ocasio-Cortez.
What is the name of it?
Owner, architect, and contractor.
OAC. So how long does those meetings generally last, Mark?
It depends. Right now, they're long. Our OAC yesterday was from 9 until about 12:30, 12:45.
Well, in fairness, it was 9 to 10 was with me, so.
Yeah, well, that was part of it. So, yeah, we had a special need yesterday, so we brought Cheryl over and as part of the OAC. So,
Because if anybody, I guess, on the committee was available, it'd be beneficial to set in on some of the AOC or OAC if you.
Yes.
If they wanted to, I guess. And I don't have any other recommendations than the 5 that we talked about.
I don't think it's a bad thing to have Cheryl there at least once a month as part of the planning. And
Or at least
whoever
purchasing
else,
agent or whatever.
somebody from your office.
Because as that's going in, that's going to change how y'all do those construction projects. I
Yeah, what is?
think
And,
purchasing policy.
and maybe what, Cheryl, you, do, and Jim, I sent you that, deal I got out of the Clear Blue. Brendan, you may be aware of it, but the transcription. If we saw the advisory minutes, it would be beneficial to some extent. We
Yeah.
could list them down if somebody would take notes and see kind of the committee's thoughts. That'd keep us abreast and we wouldn't have to, at least we could halfway,
So then when you're approving invoices weekly,
you
you
kind of know, yeah.
You're not surprised on the fly.
I didn't know there was such a thing that you take the recording, you flip it, and turn it into written script. I didn't know that, so.
Okay.
So Mickey and Mark, who else that y'all have in the courthouse here that are construction-y, kinda Rick sets on, I mean, he's got several guys that are one way or the other. But who else is involved and engaged that actually kinda has a little, I know the judge, having a judge or something that kinda input, if they have the time, and 2, the passion to want to do it. I mean, I know when you're specifically talking about their courtroom, they would, but not necessarily involved in the design of something else.
I don't know that you could get a judge to come to every one of the meetings.
Judge Kennedy's kind of the go-between, so,
Yeah, she
Okay.
is.
but as far as getting her to a regular meeting's probably not gonna happen.
Okay.
Well, we've got time, but we still need to kind of put a little description of the advisory committee together.
Well, yeah, if it's gonna be something, at least so that everybody's on the same page of what it's done, what it's supposed to do, what the goal of it, who's a part of it. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheels, surely somebody else does this too, right? You would think.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's why I ask y'all, you've been around this a lot longer. I know Commissioner Beecham has toured a ton of different courthouses for just to see how different people have done things. Did anyone have quite so many projects? Because with flooding in the middle of them, and
We have more right now, I think, than I've ever seen any court.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But we do have a lot.
A lot of that is ARPA.
yeah,
ARPA.
a windfall that no
A lot
one
of
was
it is,
expecting.
yeah, a lot of it is, we took a huge project on before ARPA,
Yeah.
the overall courthouse project.
Mark, I think when you get down to those aesthetics questions, if you'll just ask your wife what she thinks, that may not make it any less, but you'll be a lot happier. It'll work better for you, I think, in the long run.
And yeah, I'm no help there. No eye for that.
You
stuff.
know,
You
Jay,
have no idea the hours that we put in to try to come up with,
Yeah.
going through tiles, the many trips to Briegels and other places to.
You know, I
Brendan
did,
saw me last week. How many tile samples did I go through last week?
And they were heavy too.
Yeah, 100-pound tile samples
you know, we really.
to dismiss them all for a cheaper, better option.
You brought up something, Judge, I think is interesting. All this stuff's gonna be here a lot longer than we are, and we don't even really think in that.
Well, not all of it. That floor didn't last very long.
Well, it was
What did?
the floor on the third floor.
Oh.
It failed, and it's getting replaced on warranty,
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
it's getting replaced on warranty?
Yes, it's
Well,
getting
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
no, Shaw Floor ate it, and they're gonna replace it, but not till the end of the project.
When the
That's good.
school district would do something like this, a big project, was part of the scope an interior designer portion that who does it professionally, does it for a living, to help make those choices, or was that not part of the?
No, typically, and actually, that's where this all developed, because when, at some point after my stint in high school and before I stepped onto the school board, which would have been 95, there was a bond for the high school, and all of the colors at Iowa Park High were turned to blue inside. The doors, the jambs, all wall trim, and our colors are green and white.
Right.
And there was an outpour of what in the world has occurred here. And so going forward then, when we moved to that next phase, it was an issue forever about that blue. And so then those people, of course, there was a mix of girls and guys there, mostly all interested parents of some sort. And the school board member could pick if you wanted. We broke into campus also. They had a combined, and then it subbed out to campus, because you might not have been interested in Bradford, but you might, whatever. So, but anyway, they brought a lot of that to the table, and then maybe the architect showed what that looked like, or
The
something.
aesthetics when I was in high school consisted of floor tiles that.
Wooden floors.
Wooden floors and iron radiators.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
worked pretty good
Yeah.
when you were close to
Yeah.
them, but not very good across the
And
road.
they were painted new when they were put in.
The old metal single pane window frames that had been painted so many times, they were
Yeah.
about that thick. And yeah, I remember, but we got along, you know.
Yeah.
We learned how, we learned how to read and write and do algebra and all that stuff, so.
But I just always, and I do like Mark, I would, if that, I encounter that, I ask that it's easy out at precinct 4, because I got Stacy and Judge Judy, and they usually can say, hey, what do you think? And they'll say, hey, let's paint this room this color. I mean, mine are pretty simple and easy, but I default that direction to get their deal on it. But Mark's asked me a trillion times, which is like better, you know, and whether it be window frame or whatever the case be. And I just, like you, Jim, don't feel like I have that. I can't. I like it, but you show me 6 of them, and I like all 6 of them. So, you know, I don't have that natural knack.
Well, we all know it's the easiest thing in the world to complain.
Yes.
And it's a different story to get in there and to do the work. And that's why, that's part of my thoughts on, let's get more people in to help share the burden and to do the work. Okay.
I can tell you what color a 57 Chevrolet needs to be, but I can't tell you what color the floor ought to be. So everybody has their own area, you know.
If you need to have a discussion about flowers and vegetables to grow, I can help you there, but,
Yeah.
there we go.
And that's gonna become more important as we go.
Okay. Anything else on this? Thanks for humoring me. That was 40 minutes, but,
I think
You don't
over the
ask
next
the
few
question.
days, we'll be riding along and the light will come on. You'll say, you know, what would be a good idea? You know, sometimes that starts that
well, and
process.
that's an ongoing frustration I know each member of this court has,
Yeah.
is that because of state laws, we can't have
No.
discussions
Discussions.
separately, so it
It kind of messes that up.
makes it harder to do the job, but it's what we've got, so.
You guys thinking about it though, anyway, that's important. What would work?
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, thank you, everyone. It's 11:21. Court is